Hi everyone, welcome back. So last week you saw me do a Christmas related book tag, and that was just general Christmas questions, and this is songs Christmas carols actually, and what the concept is. You have a Christmas carol, and there's a question associated with it. There's about 10 carols, and I figured that that was part one, so this would be part two because they were two Christmas tags, and I didn't know which one to choose. So I said I want to do both of them for the throughout the month of December. So this is technically part two. And so what I'm going to do is name a Christmas carol and name a question that's associated with it. So let's begin. Um, okay. A few things before I start. Is that this was a tag created by Novels and Nonsense. Now, here's the thing about Novels and Nonsense is that I saw this girl. I saw her do this tag. She said she created it, but I looked through her channel and I did not see her video anywhere. I saw other Christmas videos, and she did other Christmas stuff, but that video wasn't there, and I saw her do it, so I know she created it. However, there was this other girl named, well, her YouTube channel is named Hales Hearts NYC, and she thought of a Christmas songs tag, but things she chose different songs. So she created that one, the Christmas songs, and Novels and Nonsense created the Christmas carols. And there's a clock on the shelf above me, and I apologize if you can hear the ticking of the clock. It's just this was the best place I can think of doing the segment today. So if you hear the clock, I apologize. It might be too distant, but it's it's just this is the best place I decided to do this. So yeah. All right, now we can begin. Okay, so the first Christmas Carol is Deck the Halls, and that's your favorite book covers. Now you can choose however many you want. You can choose 1, 3, 50. You can choose however many you want. I'm just gonna do one for this one because it was a really hard choice, and I thought, well, I have a certain to read list, and I'll just choose from that to read list, and I chose One Evening in Paris by Nicholas Barrow, and you've seen me discuss this before. I've featured it, and I love it because um, I mean the woman in the red coat. You see she's kind of a mystery, and so that's really what the book. That's how she's described on the back of the book. I'm judging based off the premise here. That's how I judge books I want to read. And you see she's in Paris, but you don't know much about her except sort of what the red coat. It's probably a symbol. Could be a symbol that I'm gonna look forward to. Once I read it, and it's nice and romantic because it's Paris, it's sunset, and it's just a really nice cover. I mean, I have a whole bunch of covers. This was a really hard thing to choose, but this is in a to read list of mine, so I'm gonna get to this really soon. And once I do, then I'll let you know what I thought of it. Okay, next carol is Let It Snow, and that's a book that takes place in a wintry land. And for me, this was kind of obvious because I chose The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And oddly enough, it's always Christmas every month of the year, but oh no, sorry, it's always winter every month of the year, but never Christmas. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit ironic when you think about it, but it's never Christmas, but it's winter, and based on the way Narnia is described, it looks so cool, and it looks I mean, cool, like neat, awesome, that kind of cool. And I like also, in the cover, it's like silver, and here's Aslan, the White Witch, and you can tell it's really wintry, and it's it's a cool land too. It looks really fun and nice, nice and quaint, um, based on the way it's described too. And this was a really good book. Okay, so the third carol is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and that's name a character that's a misfit. And I'm gonna choose Rigger from A Week in Winter, and I'm currently reading this. There's a bookmark in here. And, once I finish it, I'll let you know what I think. And by the way, I want to say his name is really Richard, but it said that when he was a child, he tried to save Richard, but it came out Rigger, so it just became Rigger. And I say he's a misfit because there's a scene in here. I don't remember exactly what happened. I passed that part of his introduction, but he used to be like a bad boy, and he was. I'll say he was kind of a misfit because he had a bad side. He had kind of he got into some sort of trouble and with his mother and his uncle. So I'd say he's wising up though. I'll give him that. But there are parts in here that where he's kind of troubled. So okay, the fourth carol is Holly Jolly Christmas, and that's a book that makes you happy. Book or books. You can choose however many you want, whether it's like 3, 4, 50, or 800, whatever, however many you choose. Maybe 800's a little bit exaggerating, but again, I just chose one, and it was it's a match made on Madison by D. Davis, and I say this because it was witty and it was cute and it was funny and it ended on a happy note and I'd say I don't want to say if you want a good laugh, but if you want a book that it's kind of warm, warm fuzzy a little bit, which I think was one of my questions from last week, then this is a good read. It's considered romance, but it's just cute and witty. That's really the best way I can describe it. Okay, the fifth Christmas carol is. Well, I say it's Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, but it's really called the Christmas song. I know other people call it Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, but I know it's harder to say and it's longer too, but that's what I call it, and I'm gonna keep that. And that's Name Your Favorite Christmas Story, and I chose The Night Before Christmas by Clement Seymour. I mean, okay, this is I love this. It's more of a poem than a story, but it's a short story, and I read this to my niece, who's sort of learning to read, and she liked it too. It's a children's book. It's very interactive inside, but it's really old book. It says Christmas 1990 in here, and I turned 2 that year. I think that was my third Christmas. Um, yeah, that was my third Christmas, but I was 2. But not so much on that. Um, but yeah, this is like classic. Everyone should read this. Everyone, at least once per Christmas. It's a great Christmas story, and I've always loved it. It's like the child in me that loved The Night Before Christmas. Okay, the sixth Christmas Carol is Frosty the Snowman, and that's name a character that's cold-hearted but kind. And I'm gonna say in advance that this character that I'm gonna show or talk about was one of my answers last week. If you wanted to see what I said about them, but I'm gonna say Ronnie from the last song because okay, Ronnie doesn't get along well with her father, and she's a troubled girl. She's rebellious, but she does have a very sweet spot in her heart for animals. She's a vegetarian. There's turtles on the cover here because part of an element to the story is that she saves these turtles through the character Will, or with his help, who she also kind of starts off rough with, but they warms up to him as the story goes on. And I'd say basically, despite her rebellious attitude, she's very kind and generous with animals, and she does what she can, and that's what I like about her is how she's like humanitarian, and it's just very very nice of her. Okay, the seventh carol is up on the housetop, up on the rooftop, and it's what book would you shout from the rooftops that it's your favorite? And this is my favorite. I've featured this several times before in my other segments, but it's This Is Where I Leave You by Jonathan Chopper. This I describe this when I recommend this to people and I say they should read it. I say it's the best book I've ever read. I read very other good books that I love so much. But this I'd say is like the best because I loved the character of Judd so much, and I saw the movie and Jason Bateman played Judd, and that was also really really good too. And this was one of the best books I've ever read, and I recommend this to people. If you hadn't read this book, you should. Even if it's not your fancy, if you're really more into science fiction, if you're more into nonfiction or history or any genre except fiction, you should still read this, regardless, because it's so good. It really touches your heart. It's funny, it's sad, it's both, and it's it's just a great book. And the movie too. The movie is really good. You should rent it. Okay, the eighth carol is Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and that's a character that looks out for other characters. And I chose Poppy from The Heiresses by Sarah Shepard. It's no spoiler that Poppy dies. I mean, it's not because it's right here, and they tell you right here in the premise on the inside front cover. Um, it says that she had jumped out of her office in Tribeca, so she dies, and that's not a spoiler. That's really the part of the book that helps the story flow. And I'd say while she was alive, she was like glue, to her cousins, who are all heiresses, and she was she was kind. I say glue because they were all really close together, um, and after she dies, the four remaining heiresses are still, they're still together because they have Poppy in their hearts, and they're they're really trying to figure out what happened to her, and she she really changed. Well, not she changed, but her death really changed the story, and it helps it move along. And while she was alive, she was, yeah, she 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 was very caring, and she was very sweet and polite. Okay, so the ninth carol is one I've never heard before, but I've seen the title. I've seen the title a few times. I don't know how the song goes, but it's The Holly and the Ivy, and that's either that's a book that's red and green, or it's two books, one red, one green. So I chose the latter. And so for red, I got The Art Forger by B.A. Shapiro, and green, Sideways by Rex Pickett. Um, and I like this cover because it's red and silky, and the curtain, and it's also mysterious too. And so I like that. I think this is a thrilling book. Honestly, I didn't read this yet. It's on one of my to read lists. Okay, so the 10th carol is Silent Night, and that's Name Your Favorite Classic. And I'm gonna say I've featured this picture before, and I don't have the book because it was a library book, but it's The Great Gatsby, which I featured. It's right here, and I say that because it's classic American literature, and I don't mean any offense to English literature. It's just I haven't read much English literature. I have a copy of Persuasion that I got halfway through before I failed, and I have Pride and Prejudice, which I haven't gotten to yet. But I chose The Great Gatsby because I think that's a book that every teenager should read. I read it for the first time sometime last year, and you can see I chose the movie tie-in version because that's the edition that I read, and I think that every teenager should read it. They'll get more of a sense of what history is like, and it should be. Yeah, I wish I would have read it in high school. I was never assigned it, but I could have read it, and nothing was stopping me. It's just I never got around to it, but I did, and I'm glad I loved it, and it's the book I use to make me feel more intellectual, and that I have credibility that I've read The Great Gatsby. So. All right, next carol. Okay, so the 11th carol is Baby It's Cold Outside. And this could be your favorite romance book, or your favorite romance between two characters. And not many people read romance books. I know I've read a few, but um, but enough on that. I chose favorite romance between characters, and I chose Gabe and Huck from Forever Friday. And but before I forget, I want to say that Huck's real name is Pearl. Cause I don't think she liked the name Pearl, and her maiden name was Huckabee, her maiden last name. So she was just called Huck. And oh my goodness, Gabe is one of my favorite male characters because on the back here, there's a tagline on the back that says, "Every Friday a postcard, every Friday a love poem, every Friday for 60 years." Every Friday. I'm doing the Project 52 every Friday until July. I can't dedicate 6 years to it. I'll be 80 at the time. 80. I'll be 86 in 60 years. And oh, he dedicated himself. He risked his life for her, and it was such an emotional story. I really wish I could say more, but I don't want to go too long. Oh goodness. Okay, sorry about that. But that ticking clock I told you about started chiming, and I didn't want it to interfere. But anyway, about Gabe and Huck, they're, I mean, the way they were married. By the way, I want to say that they were married for a long part of their lives, and um, due to some tragic circumstances, which you probably figure out what happens because I described it as tragic. But yeah, um, amazing story, and they're like one of the best couples I've ever read. You really have to read this. This is like This Is Where I Leave You. This is another book you should read. I don't think it's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna be a movie. There's no plans for it, but yeah. Regardless of that or any genre you like, you should read this book and really connect with Gabe and Huck. I did, and I loved it. I loved them. Okay, so for the last carol, it's the most wonderful time of the year, and you don't need a book for this one because the question is, what's your favorite Christmas traditions? And I like a lot of stuff. I like Christmas shopping. I don't know how that sounds. I don't mean like crowded malls and parking lots and stores. I mean walking through a store and finding something and saying, "Oh, my mother would love this," or "Oh, this would make a great gift for so and so." Excuse me. And I love thinking that, whether it's in stores or online, and I love thinking, predicting a good gift that someone will like. I also like the food. Oh God, the brownies, the fudge, the eggnog, hot chocolate. Oh, I want some eggnog now. Oh, and the candy canes. I love candy canes. I'm gonna try to get my hands on some candy canes. And this whole season, I just love Christmas. I love Christmas movies. I love Christmas songs. Christmas morning. I love exchanging gifts and getting things. Although this year I'm not asking for much. I'm like that, I'm not greedy. Um, I'm asking for Amy Poehler's new book, and which I'll put a picture up here if you want to see it. I featured it already, but um, and just I'm not asking for much. If I'm asking for one thing, it's that, right there. So okay, I love this whole I love this time of year, and this mug. This mug is really nice. Okay, so that was the Christmas Carols book tag. Uh, just to recap, it's created by Novels and Nonsense. I just don't have evidence of it except in my memory, because I can't prove it. And but I did put the Christmas songs book tag, which same concept, same concept, but different songs. And I decided to go with the songs that Novels and Nonsense chose, not Hales Hearts and NYC. And I'll put a link in my description to Novels and Nonsense's channel, because she has other Christmas videos and non-Christmas videos, things you might want to see. And the Christmas songs tag for Hales Hearts NYC. So So yeah, there's that, and both of those are down there in the description, along with all the questions that I went through. So, okay, so don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you next week.